What is the must-watch game for all 32 NFL teams in 2025? These are the most anticipated games for every NFL team, and we're going in alphabetical order, beginning with the Arizona Cardinals. It's Kyler Murray taking on his hometown team, the Dallas Cowboys. Week 9, Monday Night Football. Now, Cardinals fans are excited for this season after the defense completely revamped through free agency and the draft. Cardinals fans think they can compete and win the NFC West. Week 9 is the perfect part of the schedule where we might have a decent idea whether or not Arizona is actually pretty good. And this is a spotlight game on primetime with the world watching against a team that the Cardinals have kind of had some success against in recent years, but also a good enough, talented enough, respected enough team to actually get a statement victory on the road in Dallas. Dallas has excellent pass catchers, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens. They have Dak Prescott, right? Can the Cardinals get some pressure after a young, youthful Dallas Cowboys offensive line? Can Kyler Murray make a fool of Micah Parsons and the Cowboys defense? And can the Cardinals travel to a place like Dallas in a spotlight game where everyone's watching against a team that plays 6 primetime games in 2025, the Dallas Cowboys? And can they outshine a team with superstars on offense and defense, an aggressive finesse speed pass rush that will be chasing Kyler all over the field? Can the Cardinals pull off another victory over the Cowboys? Can Kyler put on a show in primetime? That's why I picked the Cowboys in Week 9 on Monday Night Football as the game of the year for the Arizona Cardinals. The Atlanta Falcons, game of the year, most anticipated, is at Tampa Bay, Week 15, Thursday Night Football. The two teams that people think will be competing over the NFC South, the Falcons and the Buccaneers. So this game really could be for the division. Baker Mayfield, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Emeka Egbuka. How much have the Falcons really improved defensively? Can Raheem Morris find the answers for Baker and the boys in Tampa Bay, especially in the sights of the pirate ship in front of the crew and the Buccaneer fans, right? This is on the road, late in the season, where the Bucs are typically high flying and playing their best football. So if the Falcons are truly the best team in the NFC South, they'll be able to prove it on the road in this setting, in this game. And if the Falcons are that team, this could be a passing of the torch inside the NFC South. But maybe not. Maybe the Bucs are here to stay. So this could be a really fun game. And both games last year were back and forth. The Falcons swept them, and they still didn't win the division. That's probably not going to happen again in 2025. The Baltimore Ravens' most anticipated game is actually, for me, Week 1, Sunday Night Football at the Buffalo Bills. This is the team that, of course, knocked the Baltimore Ravens out of the playoffs last year. I could have easily went with the Chiefs for Baltimore, but I decided on Josh Allen and the Bills because of Josh Allen. I actually think that the Lamar-Josh Allen rivalry has really taken shape over recent years because of the MVP discussion, in which I thought some people thought Josh Allen should have beat Lamar for the MVP 2 seasons ago, and some people thought Lamar should have beaten Josh Allen for the MVP last season. But either way, I think you could make a pretty strong argument. These are the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL entering 2025 based on their recent performance. They're in the same draft class, and they're 2 teams that might be fighting over the AFC this year. If I were to make a pick for the AFC Championship game in 2025, it would be the Ravens and the Bills. And in the way that the Ravens lost last year, with Mark Andrews and a drop and a couple of costly mistakes, where the Bills just kind of made less mistakes and beat them at home, it wasn't really about them outshining them or outplaying them. I think the Ravens want that revenge after hammering the Bills last regular season, right? Ultimately, the Ravens are going to be about the playoffs and their performance, but they can definitely set themselves up as the AFC favorites walking into Buffalo and winning, which is really tough to do in prime time against the crazy mafia jumping through tables. So this will be a fun game. And now we have the Buffalo Bills. Now this is where we bring up the Kansas City Chiefs. Week 9, at home, in front of the mafia. Last year in the AFC Championship, the Bills failed and fell to the Chiefs once again in Kansas City. But they'll have their game in front of their fans in the regular season once again. And the Bills have beaten the Chiefs in the regular season countless times at this point. They actually have the Chiefs' number in the regular season. So some could argue that this game doesn't really matter as much, but it's still Mahomes versus Josh Allen. It's the new Brady versus Manning. It's the most anticipated game. We're watching every throw. We're watching every inch, every yard, every play call, every decision with a fine-tooth comb. So to me, this game is just so big. The spectacle is incredible. And the quarterback play usually lives up to the hype with Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes. And I think for the Bills, this one is just, again, another revenge spot against the Chiefs after probably feeling like they should have or could have beaten the Chiefs based on a spotty spot by the referees in the AFC Championship. The Carolina Panthers game of the year is versus the Atlanta Falcons, week 3. It's the home opener. And the reason I picked this game is it was the first division rivalry game. It's a team that will be considered to win their division this year, the Atlanta Falcons, or at least in that NFC South discussion along with Tampa Bay. And I think Carolina, I'm more anticipating their early season success because I want to see, okay, what sort of impact does T-Mac have on Bryce Young? How does Bryce Young look in year 3? How many improvements have they made to their defense, and how many players have stepped up into spots where they've needed it? Their pass rush, their run defense. How does it all look? How does it all come together? So I'm more so looking for Carolina early in the year to see if they have that trajectory of actually improving and that being positive, or whether or not they're still one of the worst teams in football. That's what I'm looking for. So for me, Carolina, I'm anticipating the early season, and I'm specifically anticipating the early games against their division, because they could maybe not even win 10 games, and maybe in this division, you could win 9 and still win or be in the mix for that playoff spot. So that's why I think this game is really, really important against a younger Michael Penix. Can Bryce Young, take advantage here in the home opener against the Atlanta Falcons? Before we get to our next team, guys, don't forget to spike the like button. And in fact, if we get 100 likes on this video, 100 spikes of the like button, I will release a video where I pick every single game this NFL season from week 1 through week 18 in one video. I did it last year. I'll do it again. 100 likes, I will release that video. Okay, let's get to the next team, which is the Bears. The most anticipated game for the Chicago Bears, in my opinion, is at the Washington Commanders, Monday Night Football, Week 6. Now, the Bears have many more to choose from this season in terms of appetizing games because of the Caleb Williams year 2, Ben Johnson spike in ratings potentially, and then also all the improvements they've made to their roster, which is expecting them to make a leap in terms of their production as a team. Now, I think the Commanders are the biggest game, especially on the road. Last year, it was a Hail Mary game. The Bears should have won that game. They didn't because of a crazy Hail Mary play where they took their eye off the ball, quite literally when you're talking about Tyreek Stevenson. And that comes down to how does the coaching changes affect the Bears this season? That's a storyline for them, right? Then at the same time, Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams. Caleb by week 6 may have improved, may have established himself as a guy on the rise in the NFL at quarterback. Jaden Daniels might still be claiming to be one of the best, or he might be falling off a little bit and dipping in a sophomore slump. Either way, we're going to have an opportunity to see whether or not Chicago made the right decision. So that's why week 6 to me is such an appetizing football game, because Caleb knows the pressure he's under with how Jaden Daniels performed in his rookie season. And Jaden Daniels, he's playing with house money a little bit. but he doesn't want to lose to Caleb Williams at home in his building in a primetime spot. And the Commanders are trying to be an elite team in the NFC this year. So I think this game is really, really fun. The Cincinnati Bengals, most anticipated game of 2025, is at the Baltimore Ravens, Thursday Night Football, Week 13. Now, this game, to me, the Bengals, of course, are pretty much interesting in most matchups against good teams because they can score 40 points, and that's a pretty fun thing to watch. I love watching these Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow games. We haven't seen that many, but last year, 2 of them were electric. And I would make an argument that the worst team should have won in both games. The Bengals probably should have won both games, and they somehow didn't. You know, we could talk about the reasons why, but regardless, I think this is going to be the measuring stick for the Bengals' improvement this year. How much better did their defense get? Did they learn how to contain Lamar Jackson? Jamar Chase against the Ravens, he just goes crazy. And then Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, they just go crazy. Like, I don't think there's a team or a passing game in football that just continuously wrecks and rips up the Ravens like the Bengals. That makes for a really fun game because Lamar is always going to have that counterpunch along with Derrick Henry. So, yeah, this game could be a shootout. It could be a lot of fun. It's on a short week, but I think we had a Thursday night game, if I'm not mistaken, last year. And I feel like that game was also a lot of fun. I remember at least one primetime game. But, yeah, this game is going to be fun. The Bengals, the Ravens, Week 13 of this season. Next up, we have the Cleveland Browns. The Browns' most anticipated game is the Cincinnati Bengals, Week 1 of this season. Now, the reason I have the Bengals as the most anticipated game is because I don't know who's going to be quarterback for the Browns. This is the Battle of Ohio, which is always pretty fun and always pretty interesting and usually very physical and kind of like old school. And I don't mind an occasional game like that. And I feel like for the Browns, their most hope will be at the beginning of the season. Their defense will probably be ready to go. They usually play the Bengals extremely well. There's the storyline of the Bengals struggling early in the year. Like the Patriots beat them last year in Week 1 on the road. So there's a real opportunity for an upset here. There's a real opportunity. Right, at home in Cleveland. Cleveland has had the number of the Bengals to a certain degree, right? I think the Bengals swept them last year, but it wasn't easy and it wasn't pretty like a lot of the Bengals' other wins last year, right? The Browns are going to make it physical. The Browns are going to make it tough. And if they get a little bit of quarterback play, they could even pull off the upset. So for me, that could be the peak of their season if they somehow pull off a win over Joe Burrow and the boys. So that's why I have the Browns' most anticipated game as Week 1 against the Bengals. The Dallas Cowboys, most anticipated game. There are 6 primetime games for the Cowboys, so this is no easy option or pick. But I'm actually going to go with the Green Bay Packers, Sunday Night Football, Week 4 at home. This is early in the season where we're going to have a couple weeks of understanding what the Cowboys are, but not enough time for me to truly get the progress of Pickens, Prescott, and the new and improved Dallas Cowboys. Matt Eberflus's defense. And then at the other side of things, we've got the Packers with, their improvements offensively with rookie Golden and the Packers being a playoff team the last 2 seasons. The Packers being a team that embarrassed Dallas the last time Dallas was in the playoffs 2 seasons ago. The history between Green Bay and Dallas recently being that Green Bay typically beats them in the big games, right? This is in Dallas. And I think many of the players on the Cowboys will remember that game where they got ripped apart and shredded by Jordan Love and company. And I think there's going to want some revenge for that. And I think at the same time, we're going to get that progress for the Cowboys because the Packers aren't, to me, like so good that they're this elite team where we won't understand if the Cowboys have improved. But at the same time, they're good enough to see where the measuring stick is at and to see where the Cowboys are truly at in 2025, to see if they've entered that playoff mix. So that's why I picked this game in Week 4 on Sunday night. The Denver Broncos, most anticipated game, is at Kansas City, Christmas, Week 17. The Broncos nearly beat the Chiefs last season in a game where they lost on a blocked field goal, which was absolutely wild. And then I believe the other game was the last game of the year, so it didn't really count, right? But this year, they get to play them in a huge spot. Week 17, Christmas, everybody's watching, everybody's with their family, right? Denver's defense has a chance to embarrass Mahomes and shut up Travis Kelce. At the same time, Bo Nix can go out there and put on a show. Sean Payton can outcoach Andy Reid. And this could be a game that decides a playoff spot for the Denver Broncos and maybe even the Kansas City Chiefs. Who knows? This could even decide the division. I mean, at the absolute peak of the Denver Broncos' powers, who knows what might happen with this team. But to me, this is a huge game. It's going to matter, in my opinion. Denver's going to be right there in the playoff discussion. Kansas City, it's going to matter probably for seeding, for a bye. It's going to matter for the division. It's going to matter for a lot of different reasons. It's probably going to be a grinded out game, slow, cold weather, probably manufacturing offense. And I really enjoy those type of games late in the year in the cold. So to me, Denver, Kansas City, that sounds a lot of fun. Christmas present in week 17. Okay, next up, we have the Detroit Lions. And my pick for the Lions is at the Commanders in week 10. This is a revenge spot for the Detroit Lions where they can get revenge off of their loss as the number 1 seed in the NFC. The Commanders walked into Detroit and upset Jared Goff, Dan Campbell, and the Detroit Lions. And this year, the Lions get a chance to go to Washington and shut up Jaden Daniels and stop him and get their revenge from the playoffs. Detroit plays a lot of good games this year. They play a lot of top opponents. But I don't think there are any that are more personal than beating Jaden Daniels and the Commanders after Detroit's best regular season I've ever seen, and probably of their entire franchise's history, winning 15 games. To fall short in their first playoff game was a true shock and a really disappointing end to a really awesome season. So I think Detroit wants to get that win back, and they can get it in week 10. The Green Bay Packers' most anticipated game is at the Detroit Lions, week 13, Thanksgiving. We've had some good games between the Packers and the Lions that have been decided by the last possession over the last couple of years. And we even had the Packers walk into Detroit in Thanksgiving and win a couple seasons ago. This game, it's Detroit's, most kind of bitter rival in the Packers. At the same time, the Lions have been the team that have kind of, I wouldn't say upset the Packers in recent years, but taken their position, taken their spot, taken their reign as the top team in the NFC North, right? And the Packers have been out-physicaled, outplayed at the line of scrimmage. So can the Packers turn that around? Week 13 is that part of the calendar where we're really understanding which teams are very good and which teams are not as good, but still good, right? This is the separation between elite and just good. And this is a game that I think will indicate where each team's trajectory is heading towards the playoffs. So week 13, Thanksgiving football, that's when Bill Belichick said you want to be playing your best football. So to me, that's the best game on the Packers schedule. Before we continue, guys, don't forget to subscribe. Don't be a jabroni. If you want more NFL schedule breakdowns, rankings, picks, and more for the 2025 NFL season, subscribe to the BLV. Okay, next up, we have the Houston Texans. Their game of the year is in Kansas City, week 14, Sunday Night Football. Yep. They lost to the Chiefs twice last year. I was close to taking the Bills game at home on Thursday night a couple weeks before this as the game of the year for the Texans. And I believe that was the game that I billed as the game of the year for the Texans last year. But in my opinion, the game of the year is the team that you couldn't beat last year. Like, you played them twice, and it was a similar result both times. Your defense played pretty well, kept Mahomes in check, and did mostly what they had to do. But at the same time, the offense was a little sputtered, inconsistent, and couldn't quite block well enough or make situational plays well enough to outlast the best team in the AFC. So in week 14, it will be the measuring stick for the Texans entering the playoffs. Sunday night on the road in Kansas City under the bright lights, cold. Can a team that plays in a dome go to Kansas City and beat them and upset them and be more physical and shut down Mahomes, but at the same time move the ball well enough with this offensive line? Because by week 14, we'll understand what this Texans offense truly is. Will the Texans have enough this year? Have they improved enough this year to beat the Chiefs? Even if the Chiefs aren't as good, this will still be a huge indicator because this is a big game. This is week 14, right? This is on the road in the most hostile stadium in the NFL. This is the game where Texans fans can understand whether or not they have something this season or not. Like, if you win this game, you might be talking about, whoa, we could be the team to come out of the AFC. If they lose again, you're like, we're just the same team we've been. So to me, I think that is a big game. The Indianapolis Colts, most anticipated game, is versus Denver, week 2. I believe this is the home opener, if I'm not mistaken. But the reason I really picked this game is it's early in the calendar, so we can understand what Anthony Richardson has improved upon this offseason. It's against a good defense, one of the best in football, the team that lead the NFL in sacks, or led the NFL in sacks with proper English. And this is a team that's also very good at the line of scrimmage. So the Colts, with some improvements or more depth to their defensive front, offensive line maybe lost a couple pieces. How did they look up front, right? And the Colts, how does Eberflus's defense fare against Sean Payton on offense, against Bo Nix, and this year 2 of the Denver Broncos offense? So I think there's a lot to look at here because the Colts, this is a team that made the playoffs last year in Denver. This is their first real taste of a really interesting opponent where we can actually see, okay, Richardson's improvement, the defense, how everything comes together, and whether or not we should take the Colts seriously in 2025. Again, guys, not every best, most anticipated game is the biggest or the brightest. Sometimes it's the one where we can actually get a real feel for a team. And to me, the Colts are one of those teams where I want to get a feel for Anthony Richardson. I want to get an understanding of what this team's going to look like in 2025. The Jacksonville Jags versus Kansas City, Monday Night Football, Week 5. This is in Jacksonville on Monday Night Football. Enough said. We do not see that very often. Jacksonville does not have games at home on Monday Night Football. And yeah, I mean, that's enough to put it on the list. But then you have Patrick Mahomes, Kansas City, a team where they've had a little bit of history with the Chiefs, right? They did face them in a playoff game once before, Trevor Lawrence did. And in week 5, we have a month of the NFL calendar where Liam Cohen has gotten his offense humming, right? The new coaching staff and the new roster is starting to take shape, and we're starting to understand what their tendencies are and what they're good at and what they're not so good at, right? So we could see Travis Hunter on primetime. We can see Brian Thomas and Travis Hunter on primetime. And the Chiefs are having to travel to Duval. So yeah, that to me is their best game by far. I think that should be pretty fun. And this could be an upset potential type of game. Then you have the Kansas City Chiefs, who I'm going with Philadelphia, week 2, right? For the Chiefs fans out there, the measuring stick is, can we win the Super Bowl? And the team we got obliterated by in the Super Bowl is the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you want to get back to the Super Bowl and win, you're going to have to probably maybe go through a team like the Eagles. And early in the calendar, we can see how much the offensive line of Kansas City has improved. How much better are they at protecting Mahomes, keeping him clean, and allowing him to thrive through the air against Philadelphia? At the same time, we can see if the Chiefs have improved their running game, or the Chiefs have improved from a defensive standpoint against Jalen Hurts and those receivers. So I think there's a big question mark for the Chiefs. How do they go about beating the Eagles? Because they got absolutely punished by them in the last game, and they want their revenge. There's not many teams that have the Chiefs number, but after obliterating Kansas City in the Super Bowl, this team has their number. That's why this one means a lot for Mahomes, Reed, and the team. The Los Angeles Chargers. The Chargers. Most anticipated game is not the first game against the Chiefs, but the second at Kansas City, week 15. The reason I did not pick the Brazil game is because it's a neutral site game. It's the first week of the season. And no matter what happens there, it's hard to really get a grasp on how good each team is. But by week 15, this game could decide the division. It's also in Kansas City. And the Chargers are a team that are trying to become more physical. And in the cold of Kansas City in December, you're going to get a chance to prove that, right? You're going to get a chance to prove if your running game is truly improved, if your defensive front is up to the task, if you have enough weaponry on offense and defense to get after Mahomes and to make plays against this Steve Spags defense. And this could ultimately decide the division. A lot of people think the Chargers could go toe-to-toe with the Chiefs this year inside the division. This game could decide it in week 15. So there's a lot of reasons. From a fundamental identity standpoint, this is important to the Chargers. From a season standpoint, this is important to both teams. The Los Angeles Rams, most anticipated game, is at the Eagles week 3. The Rams got absolutely smothered and smoked by the Eagles in the regular season. Saquon ran all over them. And then in the playoffs, while the Eagles did win, you could make a strong argument that the Rams were the most competitive team against the Eagles in the entire playoffs, and they nearly knocked them off. The Rams have subtly made some moves to improve their roster and make them more formidable to beat Philadelphia. Can Stafford make the throws necessary? Can they protect from that Eagles pass rush? And can Devontae Adams be the improvement through the air that they truly need to feast on Philadelphia? On the other side, can Poona Ford and perhaps this new front for the Rams slow down Saquon Barkley? This could be a game where the Rams truly let us know, not in LA, but on the road in Philadelphia, that they might be for real this year and they might be a Super Bowl contender this year. The Las Vegas Raiders versus the Chargers, Monday Night Football, week 2. Whenever I see Raiders and LA, I feel like there is some sort of bitterness in that discussion because I still feel like the city of LA is the Raiders city. Even though they play in Vegas and played in Oakland, it feels like LA has always been the city of the Raiders. And so that to me does spark a debate among the fan bases. It's also on Monday Night Football, which the Raiders don't play a ton of primetime games this year. And it's early in the season, so we'll get a feel for Chip Kelly's new offense, Geno Smith in Raiders colors, Pete Carroll's new Raiders team. And it's against a team Jim Harbaugh is trying to throw out there where he's got some new pieces on offense. We're trying to figure out how much better the Chargers are. And I want to see Ashton Genty in prime time. It's one of those doubleheader Monday night games, I believe. So there's a lot of fun here. I think this could be a really captivating game from the perspective of watching all the improvements and all the different pieces and puzzles coming together here. Then you have the Miami Dolphins versus the Commanders in Spain, week 11. This to me is the most fun matchup for Miami. It might not be the most meaningful, but a game against the Commanders could be a high-scoring affair, a shootout in a foreign country. It could be pretty fun in Spain. I'm not sure what the weather will be like, but man, I'd love to go to this game. I feel like this game could be a lot of fun between, Tyreek Hill and Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin and Jalen Waddle and Deebo Samuel. I mean, talk about fireworks, Cliff Kingsbury, Mike McDaniel. This could be a fun show for the European fans and for Europe in general and for Spain. So for Spain's first taste of football to be the Commanders and Dolphins and the styles at which they play, that should be pretty fun. So yeah, I don't think this game is like the most impactful on Miami's season. It's an NFC opponent, but I think it will be the most fun. The Minnesota Vikings, most anticipated game of the year, is Chicago, Monday Night Football, week 1. It's rare that I add a week 1 game to this list, but J.J. McCarthy has never been witnessed or seen by the NFL public in a regular season game. The Vikings are one of the most talented teams in football, and it's not going to matter if their quarterback isn't any good. So we're going to get our first glimpse of J.J. McCarthy. We're also going to get our first glimpse of this new and improved Chicago team. And we're going to see where Caleb Williams is at, Ben Johnson's offense with Chicago, right? Year 2, Roma Dunze, Luther Burden, Colston Loveland. We're going to see the improvements from the Vikings defensively on the defensive line and their offensive line improvements against an improved overall Chicago team with a new coaching staff. There's so much intrigue here. And then at the same time, Caleb Williams, in a recent story, has come out about how he actually wanted to go to Minnesota. And then JJ is their guy, same draft class as Caleb. So there's a lot here to really like. It's in Chicago too, where I believe JJ is from, born and raised. It's Monday Night Football. The winner of this game could set the tone for the rest of their season. Some people think the Vikings are not going to be as good as last year. They can prove that wrong. At the same time, some people think Chicago is going to take that jump. They can prove that right. So I have the Vikings against the Bears as their game of the year. The New England Patriots' most anticipated game is the Buffalo Bills Sunday Night Football Week 5. Now, this is at Buffalo. I thought it might be in New England, but it's at Buffalo inside that mafia-filled stadium where this is going to be a test for Mike Vrabel, for his football team, for the character of his football team, and for young Drake May, right? May last year when he went to Buffalo, there was no expectations. That game ended up being pretty close, but there were no expectations. This year, it's still early in the calendar, week 5, where they're probably learning what they are, their identity, their offense, all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, there's been enough of a sample size where maybe New England's starting to gain some steam as a team, starting to look like a promising playoff competitor, and they're having to take on the top dog in their division, and the Bills don't want to let up their top spot, and it's Josh Allen versus Josh Allen younger version, right? And it's like, okay, this is pretty interesting. So big brother versus little brother. I feel like Mike Vrabel, he's had his fair share of games against Josh Allen and the Bills as well in Tennessee. There's been some good ones in that mix as well. This could be a really, really fun game in prime time. And this could be the first game where we really get to see the promise of the Patriots. So that's what I'm really looking forward to here. The New Orleans Saints' most anticipated game of 2025 is versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That game is Week 8. It's difficult to pick a game for the Saints this year, I'm not going to lie. They don't have a primetime game this season. There's not a lot of expectation for the Saints. Derek Carr just retired. How good is Tyler Shuck going to be? But I do know that the Bucs games are always fun. They're fierce. They're feisty. They're aggressive. They're in your face. And if there's one team the Saints don't want to lose to, trust me, they want to lose a lot of games this year. But if there's one game they don't want to lose, it's against Tampa Bay. So that's why I went with that one. Then we have the New York Giants versus the Philadelphia Eagles, Thursday Night Football, Week 6. The Giants may or may not be good this year. Actually, I don't really know. Their defense is pretty talented, though. They've got one heck of a front seven. And the best test for them is the Eagles' offensive line. At the same time, it's Saquon versus the Giants. That's pretty interesting and fun to me as well, even in year 2. And also, this is a more competitive Giants offense. So they're going to take on that Philadelphia top dog defense. This is the top team in the NFC East. If the Giants want to compete this year, this is the team they have to beat. And this is a marquee game at home, Thursday night. The champs coming off a short week. They could get them. They could get them. So I had the Giants taking on the Eagles as their marquee game. The New York Jets' most anticipated game is Week 1 versus Pittsburgh. This could be Aaron Rodgers versus the Jets. That's the biggest reason I included this game. But it's also Justin Fields versus Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh maybe was looked at as the future team for Justin Fields. Like, Justin Fields was actually, a lot of fans were thinking he was going to be the guy long-term beyond Russell Wilson. Well, that didn't end up working out. He signed a contract with the Jets, and now he's their bridge option at quarterback and will have an opportunity to prove to his former team just for a season that they made the wrong decision, especially if he can beat Aaron Rodgers in this game. Whether or not it's Mason Rudolph or it's Aaron Rodgers, I still think this is going to be a lot of fun. 2 physical defenses as well early in the season. Aaron Glenn's ability to set the tone against Mike Tomlin. Looking forward to it. Then we have the Philadelphia Eagles. Plenty to choose from here. But I think the best game for any Super Bowl champ is the banner game. You're still looking back at the nostalgia of last season, the dominance of the Philadelphia Eagles last year. Week 1, Thursday Night Football, revealing that banner. And to me, the Dallas Cowboys beating them down, being 7-point favorites at home in the opener is always pretty fun, right? You guys hate the Cowboys, so any chance to beat them while also flaunting your Super Bowl in front of them, I think is the best way to go about starting the season. Then next, we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers' game of the season is versus the Packers. That is Week 8, Sunday Night Football. Now, this is a projection that Aaron Rodgers will be the starter for the Steelers. There are other options if this isn't the case, but against the Packers, Aaron Rodgers, I mean, come on. Like, this is a gimme. This is easy. Sunday Night Football in front of the world, I don't think they put it on Sunday Night Football for no reason. I'm just throwing it out there. It's also a team that they lost to in the Super Bowl with Aaron Rodgers, okay? And it's also a pretty darn good team, and it's just a great game. I mean, it could be a really good game between a high-flying, youthful offense and an experienced, tough defense with the Steelers defense and the Packers offense too. So yeah, whether it's Rodgers versus Love or not, it could still be a lot of fun, but that storyline, my goodness. Then you have the San Francisco 49ers. Their game of the year, they don't have as many to choose from this year. So I went with the Rams at LA, Week 5, Thursday Night Football. They often swept the Rams in their seasons past, but not last year. They got swept by Stafford, McVay, and the Rams. And it's early in the year, enough early in the year where it's Week 5, so we can see the improvements from Robert Saleh and Kyle Shanahan and this team and this roster to see if they're ready to reclaim their throne in the NFC West. If they can knock off the Rams in their building with the expectations of LA, that would be a big deal. These McVay and Shanahan games are always a lot of fun, and they're very close and competitive, and Brock Purdy's got to prove he's a $50 million man, and what better way than going to LA and beating Stafford? So that's a rivalry, San Francisco and the Rams. Then you have the Seattle Seahawks. Their game of the year is versus the Vikings, Week 13. This is at home, Sam Darnold revenge game. The Vikings chose to move on from him. J.J. McCarthy, their new starter. Can Sam prove that he is better than JJ? He's got a chance here. And Mike McDonald, his defense, he's got a big task in slowing down that Vikings offense. So I look forward to the matchup on the field and the storyline off the field as well. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers, game of the season is versus the Philadelphia Eagles, Week 4. I considered the Lions because that game's actually on prime time, but the Bucs have played the Eagles better than just about any team in the NFL, and they play them at home again. They beat them down last year at home, and Baker did beat them in the playoffs. Tom Brady beat them in the playoffs. This team has beaten the Eagles more in recent years than any team in the NFL, regardless of quarterback. Todd Bowles has had a lot of great game plans against Jalen Hurts, and if anyone can slow down the Eagles' rushing attack, it's this big boy Vita Vea and the bunch in Tampa Bay. So I love this Mike Evans matchup with Quinyon Mitchell. This offense, how you going to slow him down, Vic Fangio? So I feel like, yeah, this is the game for Tampa to kind of prove that they're right in the mix again in 2025 in the NFC. Then we have the Tennessee Titans versus the Rams, Week 2. This is the home opener, the first chance for Titans fans to watch Cam Ward up close and personal. They're probably not expected to beat the Rams, but it's also a chance to see Matthew Stafford and how Cam Ward compares to a former first overall pick and Super Bowl champ in his own right. Seeing that talent up close and personal, seeing that offense in the Rams. Then at the same time, it's a chance to see the Titans' offensive line improvements because the Rams have a very good pass rush. So can they slow that down? Those are questions that will need to be answered. Wouldn't expect a win here out of Cam Ward, but would expect to see some bright spots, right? So the fan base is going to be very, very elated and excited to see this game. And then the final one, of course, the Commanders. The Commanders' game of the season is versus the Cowboys, Week 17. It's Christmas on Netflix and a chance to beat the Cowboys on Christmas. What better present for Commanders fans than beating Dak Prescott, Jerry Jones, and his boys on Christmas? That enough said right there. Dan Quinn against his old team as well. And of course, you've got the Cowboys, who hopefully will retain health at quarterback this year. They actually beat the Commanders last season, which was one of the more surprising games of the season. And I think the Commanders and the Cowboys will be fighting for a playoff spot at this point in the season. So Week 17, that's a pretty big game, if you ask me. Those are the most anticipated games for every team in the NFL in 2025. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, remember 100 likes. Gronk spike the like button, don't be a jabroni, and subscribe. It's Mitch. Peace.